Good day, folks. This is John coming at you from Nortonman Art and Comics. Today I'm going to be doing a solo act, talking to you all by myself about the year 2016 and the shitstorm that it was, as well as some of my thoughts on some of the cool shit coming on in 2017. So stay tuned.
Welcome to Brainwave.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to another episode of Brainweb. I am your current only host, John Norton. Like I said, I am doing a solo act as my partner in crime, the Superman to my Batman, Jesse Roundy, is, I don't know what he's doing. He has another kid. He has two, I think, now. So that's a lot. So he's quite the busy bee. So I'm, we haven't done a podcast in a while, so I thought it was time to do something again. So doing a solo act, like I don't know, Paul McCartney after the Beatles or somebody like that. Anyways, what should we talk about? I'm going to tell you what we're going to talk about. So I know it's the end of January, so we're already a month into 2017, but I wanted to give my thoughts and recap a little bit about 2016. Now, I'll still clear of the politics and the world-ending inauguration day that is coming. So we won't talk about that because that just gets people in an uproar. Let's keep it fun. But what am I going to bitch about? I'm going to talk about some of the movies and some of the major movies. I'm not going to talk about some of the, independent movies. I'm going to talk about the movies that, everybody has seen and or had wanted to see, and give you some of my thoughts on some of them and what I felt could have been better or worse or whatever. So, what's first? Start off with the Batman vs. Superman movie. I know, it's been a long time. Everybody said shit about it. Everyone's already decided whether they like it or not. I thought it was a good movie. The end. I mean, yes, they could have done things much differently. But, Ben Affleck was awesome as Batman. Wonder Woman in it was well received. I loved her. Thought she was awesome. So, there's some awesome moments. The story, the plot, what are you going to do? Everyone knows the whole Martha thing. But I had a lot of fun with this movie, flaws and all. I know that if you weren't a comic book reader, you're probably like, what the fuck am I watching? But if you were a comic book reader, you probably had a little bit better understanding. Not that it's going to make a better movie for you, but I thought it was fun. I mean, that opening scene with Bruce Wayne going through Metropolis as it was being demolished by Superman and Zod, I thought that was just like edge of your seat action. Like, I was just like so happy to see something like that. I don't know why, just like knowing that this was Batman, even though it was just Bruce Wayne, and having to deal with an event like that, it was just really exciting. So that scene was awesome. Like I said, Batman in it, his introduction was awesome. Same with Wonder Woman. There were some really cool moments in it, mostly that involved some really cool visuals. Say what you want about Zack Snyder, but he does some really interesting visual shots. There was like this little homage, bunch of different scenes of Superman bringing someone out of a burning building or carrying that or dragging that ship by the anchor. A bunch of scenes like that. Those are just like cool, like comic book cover shots. So that is something that he at least did well, I thought. And he knew how to portray the powers, like Superman's powers. There's this one scene that was really insignificant. It was right when, Wonder Woman was introduced. That's not what's insignificant. But as soon as she showed up and did her badass move, she kind of looked up because Superman came zooming back in from out of space. I think he had already gotten hit by the nuke and regenerated. He was coming back down to fight Doomsday. And there was just this brief moment where Wonder Woman looks up, and kind of in the background, it was a split second of like thunder and lightning kind of crackling, or you hear thunder, and you just see this. I can't even describe it, but Superman comes like zooming in from the background, and just the way they did that's a really subtle way to bring him in. And it was really quick, and you lose it with all the other shit that was going on, but it was kind of just a cool moment, and I think that's what I really enjoyed about that movie. But the movie, it came out in March, so it's been a little while, so I won't delve into that movie that much longer. Next one, Captain America Civil War. Who didn't love that movie? It was awesome. Where would I rank it among my favorite Marvel movies? Not sure. I mean, the first Avengers movie was and is my favorite Marvel movie, but my favorite comic book movie. So there was just a lot of things about that movie that just had me excited. Like I felt I was witnessing something special in the theater. There was just an air of excitement around the build up to it and everything. But that was the first Avengers movie. Why I'm saying that is a lot of people are saying the Civil War is the best one. Arguably, some say Winter Soldier, some say Guardians of the Galaxy. But it didn't have that same fun, that same excitement that I had for the first Avengers movie. It was still a great movie, had some great scenes. The airport scene is as a fun and exciting scene in any of the Marvel or comic book movies that I've ever seen. Pretty much on par with like that final alien invasion scene in the first Avengers movie. That was really fun. Just all the characters in there and interacting. It was way awesome. The introduction of Black Panther, the introduction of Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man, everyone says he stole the show. Well, I like him. Tom Holland, he does a good job. I'm not a big fan of this version of Spider-Man. Everyone is saying that, oh, he's a teenager. That's how Spider-Man is supposed to be. I'm like, since fucking when? Like, when he first came out, yes, he was a teenager, but he hasn't been a teenager in the comic books and, like, the cartoons for so long. Like, yes, there had been different iterations. The Ultimate Spider-Man comic book, definitely he was a teenager, but it's not like he's been a fucking teenager this entire time. Like, since I've been watching Spider-Man, he's been a young adult, someone in college or after college, and that's always been the Spider-Man I know. So this argument that, like, oh, like, he's, finally a teenager. It's like, I don't want to fucking see him in high school, like, for 3 movies. That's just annoying to me. But that's just my preference. I mean, but that's not going to ruin a movie. I'm still going to go see Spider-Man Homecoming, obviously. But I didn't think Spider-Man stole the show. Who stole the show for me? Everybody did. Like, that's why this movie was so great, because, like, no one had, I mean, aside from Captain America and Bucky and Iron Man, everyone just had their moments. Ant-Man was fucking funny as hell. I thought he was so hilarious in this movie. I loved him. I enjoyed him more than Spider-Man. Even Hawkeye, like, who I haven't really enjoyed in the other Avengers movies, I thought was really interesting in this movie for some reason. He didn't do much, and I don't know what it was, and I can't explain it. It's just, I really enjoyed it. Scarlet Witch, Vision, Black Widow was okay. I mean, she was there. It was awesome seeing Captain America and Iron Man fight. It was based on the Civil War comic book, but very loosely based, mostly just the Registration Act, which was kind of a side story. And then Iron Man and Cap fighting was mostly the big deal in this movie that came from the comics. I mean, it was more of just a skirmish, like a disagreement as opposed to a war. It would have been kind of cool if I had been running Marvel, but like they need help or advice from some fucker on the internet, telling them how to make a movie when they've made billions and billions, so they know what they're doing. But if it were me, I would have tried to tie this into maybe the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, like how the Winter Soldier was tied more into it, and maybe have characters on there draw sides as well. So you kind of expand beyond this movie to see that as an actual war, as opposed to this like, oh, Cap thinks this way and Iron Man thinks this way, and let's have like 6 people on each side and have this kind of battle. It wasn't a war, but it didn't need to be. I'm not like saying that it's so stupid for calling it Civil War and then having nothing to do with the comic book. I mean, you can. There was no way they could. So people who are saying that it was nothing like the comic book, of course it wasn't. There's no way it could have been. So quit your bitching. Try and enjoy it for what it was able to do and what it was able to give you. Let's move on to the X-Men Apocalypse movie. In my opinion, the X-Men movies were what started this current superhero craze. I mean, there are people who would argue that Blade was the first Marvel movie, successful Marvel movie. And while that's true, it didn't market itself like a superhero movie or comic book movie. It was just kind of a vampire action movie. I think it came out before Matrix. I'm pretty sure it did. But kind of along that same vein, you didn't have to be a comic book fan, or they didn't have to cater to like the weirdness of comic books to get people to go see that movie. So I don't really consider it like that's the jumping off point. That's where, Marvel thought it could make comic book movies. It's like, yes, it came before, but like the first X-Men movie in 2000 with Bryan Singer, if that movie didn't do well, who knows where comic book movies would be today. Like, I wouldn't say they wouldn't exist, but maybe it'd be a little bit, I don't know, different, pushed back a little bit. Maybe the success wouldn't be the same. So X-Men and then X2, X-Men United, were great movies. X-Men 2 is in my top 5, maybe top 3, maybe top 2 favorite comic book movies of all time. I think definitely Avengers, X-Men 2, and The Dark Knight are my top 3. But anyways, after that, everyone knows the struggles the X-Men movies has had. X-Men 3, not so great. X-Men Origins Wolverine, really not so great. Except for that opening war montage with Wolverine Sabretooth. That was awesome. X-Men First Class came around and kind of got it back on its toes. X-Men Days of Future Past was really good. I actually really like that. Probably my second favorite X-Men movie after X2. I mean, Bryan Singer had come back after he directed the first 2 and then went off to do Superman Returns. We all know that didn't go so great. And we all wonder, what could he have done with that X-Men 3 movie and done a proper Phoenix storyline? Anyways, X-Men Days of Future Past, Bryan Singer came back. It was a cool time travel storyline. It wasn't quite what I was hoping, or there were certain elements that I was hoping that they'd pull from the comic books, but it was still a great movie. I really enjoyed it. And they followed up with this X-Men Apocalypse pretty soon after. It was like 2-year wait, which is pretty fast for a sequel. And it's not a bad movie. It's not nearly as bad as X-Men 3 or X-Men Origins Wolverine or any of that shit, but it failed in a lot of ways. And I had some thoughts of, again, what I would have done if I would have made this movie. I mean, if they're going with the Apocalypse theme, I thought that was a good idea. I mean, get away from Magneto being the villain the whole time, bring another major villain. Apocalypse is a good one to do that with. Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse. That's a thinking outside of the box casting. I thought it was kind of interesting. Him dressing up like in a costume and makeup as Apocalypse, as opposed to being like a CG character, that's debatable. I mean, I think a lot of people thought it didn't work for this movie, but how many times have we, my generation, like, I'm not a millennial, I'm not from generation Gen X, I think I'm somewhere in the middle, but, I grew up in the 80s, loved a lot of 80s movies, and it just seemed like, especially after the prequel Star Wars movies, there was just this, everything was in CGI. Like everybody had to be a CG character and blah, 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 blah. And you're kind of like, what about the magic of those old movies when they didn't have that option of being CG? You kind of want more movies to be able to do that, to have that same magic. So I get what maybe they were trying to do by not making Apocalypse a CG character, but I don't know if it worked. And it would have been interesting to see him be more look like how he did in the comic books, and maybe have more CG in him where he could grow and change his size and morph his body and stuff. But then, having it the time period be in the 80s, I didn't mind that. Was it the 80s? 70s? 70s? Let me think. X-Men First Class 60s, Future Past 70s. Oh, yeah, and Apocalypse was in the 80s. But they had to... when you're doing an Apocalypse movie, you have to have his horsemen in it. But who they had as his four horsemen, I don't think was... I didn't like. In the comic books, traditionally, the horsemen have been like the biblical horsemen. Death, famine, war, and pestilence. And each horseman had like those kind of characteristics. So Angel was like the most notable horseman of Apocalypse when he was turned into Archangel, and he was the horseman Death. So they put him in as one of his horsemen. I get that. Okay, it makes sense. Even though it doesn't make sense in the weird timeline that X-Men has. We won't get into that because there already was an Angel. But then they had Magneto and Storm and Psylocke as his other three horsemen. But they weren't, pestilence, war, death. They weren't anything like that. They were just his four horsemen. There was the X-Men Evolution cartoon in the series finale had Apocalypse. And his four horsemen were Professor X, Magneto, Storm, and Mystique. And that was kind of interesting because he kind of brainwashed them and, increased their powers, much like he did in this movie. But I don't know if they shared the same kind of characteristics as Death and War and stuff like that. But I don't know why I'm talking about that. But what I was saying, another notable Death horseman was Wolverine. Wolverine had lost his, in the comic books in the 90s, had lost his metal adamantium skeleton and his metal claws, so he only had bone claws for a while. And he was eventually given his adamantium back by Apocalypse when he was brainwashed to be the Horseman Death. So my whole point for talking about this is who I would have wanted as the Horseman. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine was in this X-Men Apocalypse movie doing his Weapon X thing, and that was an awesome scene in that movie. That's the thing with this movie is they had some great moments in it, but the overall movie was kind of shitty. Anyways, instead of having Wolverine in it as just Weapon X and a glorified cameo, he should have been a horseman. He should have been a villain of the movie. It wouldn't have been a major role or anything or a part, but I thought him being the Horseman Death would have been really cool and had him have to fight the X-Men. Now, I do think they should still put Archangel in there because you kind of need Archangel with Apocalypse, and Archangel is also Death, the Horseman, so that could kind of create a problem, but have Wolverine and Archangel as two of the Horsemen. Another person who I thought should have been Horseman is Mystique, Jennifer Lawrence, who was in it. I just think her morphing abilities would be something kind of cool that they could play with. But that's not something I think they definitely should have had her as a horseman. That was just kind of an idea. The fourth horseman, I don't know. They could pick anybody and kind of make him interesting, maybe even Professor X. But what I would have done with this movie, as opposed to making Magneto, because I love Michael Fassbender as Magneto, instead of making him a horseman, even though he was good in the role that he had, I would have swapped him for Mystique in their roles. This whole thing with Mystique being part of the X-Men, I know the movies are different from the comic books, but you kind of wish that Mystique was more like how she was in the comic books. I would have liked to see Magneto have to lead this younger group of X-Men, like with Cyclops and Jean Grey and all those guys, as opposed to Mystique. And, Professor X is gone or captured or something, and Magneto would have to step into that role as the leader and lead this young group. And they've done that in the comic books. He's been a member of the X-Men for a long time in different instances. Back in the day, he even did this in the comic books. He was the leader of the New Mutants and was part of the X-Men. I thought that would have been a much more interesting take in this movie as opposed to having Mystique lead them, which I Jennifer Lawrence, great actress. She's a star. They need her in there, but I don't know if I like that. So those are my thoughts on X-Men. Some other notable movies: the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Out of the Shadows. I enjoyed that movie. It was shitty in a fun way. I think their biggest misstep was Casey Jones. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Stephen Amell. I love him as the Arrow. I have a man crush on that dude. But I thought he was just too happy. Casey Jones should be kind of a grumpy, weird psychopath dude. And as how they made Krang and the Technodrome and Bebop and Rocksteady and made that more closer to the cartoons and everything, I think they should have gone the same way with Casey. And they should have had Shredder in it a little bit more. Actually had him in his, cool Shredder armor and fighting and just not be such kind of a pussy, I guess, in this movie. I don't know. Star Trek Beyond came out. That was probably one of the biggest surprises of how good it was. I was not expecting much out of this movie after J.J. Abrams left to do Star Wars. I was thinking, this movie isn't going to go anywhere, especially after the last movie. It wasn't that great. They got Justin Lin, who was Fast and Furious director, to come in. And who's the guy who plays Scotty? He helped write it. I can't remember. Everyone's yelling it at me right now, I'm sure. My millions and hundreds of thousands of fans. What is his name? I want to say... Fuck. Anyways. But that movie was really fun. It was so surprising. It was like a perfect mix of this new Star Trek with the feeling of the old school Star Trek adventures that they used to have. So I thought it was a good combination of the two. It was probably the most Star Trek of all these the most Star Trek-y of all these new movies. Had a cool sci-fi element to it as opposed to just being a weird sci-fi action flick. Next movie, let's talk about Star Wars Rogue One. I want to say Rogue Squadron. What to say about this movie? I mean, I've seen it twice, and I'm not a big fan of this movie. I was really excited for it. The trailers just had me super pumped. I thought it was a good idea. I mean, if they're going to do a Star Wars movie every year, this was not a bad idea of the premise of, how they got the Death Star plans. And, obviously you knew that they were going to get the Death Star plans, but you didn't know how. And they had all this diverse group of characters. And I was telling people, I will be disappointed if every single one of these characters does not die. Because I want that emotional weight of really liking these characters and then them just dying off. Because obviously, I mean, you might as well kill them. That's the way you create tension in a movie where you already know that they get the plans. And spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, but I mean, it's been over a month. Yes, everyone does die, but this movie just still, I was bored halfway through it. I didn't care about any of the characters, mostly. I mean, Jyn Erso, she was there and she was the main character, but I didn't really care about her that much. K2SO, everyone was saying, oh, he steals the show. And yeah, he was funny. He has some moments, and I thought he was a good idea of a character. But again, he wasn't as great and as funny as I was hoping. I did like Donnie Yen's character. See, this is the problem with this movie. I don't remember half of these guys' names. Caspian, who's the fuck, I don't know. I can't remember any of their names. Like, none of these characters were very memorable. I did like Donnie Yen's character, the blind monk kind of guy who was one with the Force. I liked him. He was blind and he was a good fighter, which we've seen. You know, it's a Daredevil thing, and I'm sure it's been in other kind of movies or stories. But I thought he had some funny moments, and you never really see the Force in this movie. I mean, the Star Wars is all about Jedi and Force, and they didn't have any of those. I mean, again, spoilers. Yes, Darth Vader showed up at the end of the movie. We'll talk about that in a second. But, like, you never see the Force, or, like, it's never explained to you. And some people have said, like, you know, this movie doesn't tell you anything, and, you know, in the original Star Wars, it explains the Force, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, this movie doesn't need to. It's part of a story, and if this movie had come out on its own without any of the context of the other movies, yes, I would be like, what the fuck are we talking about? But that's not the world we live in, so I can accept this. But anyways, I'm talking about this because I did like that scene near the end when Donnie Yen, his character, finally did die, because the end battle, the last 20 minutes or whatever, that was exciting. Seeing the Rebel fleet and the X-Wing and Star Destroyers and all that, and the ground assault, the ground battle, that was all fun. And people are starting to die. I think K2SO, K7, whatever. The android dude, he had died. I can't remember who had died at this point, but you knew it was like some of these guys, their time was coming. And Donnie Yen, he had this kind of chant that he would say at some points in the movie, the Force is with me, I'm one with the Force is with me, something like that. And then he had to go do something, and it was kind of a suicide mission, but he starts chanting that, I'm the Force is with me, I'm one with the Force is with me, I am one with the Force. And he just starts walking out, and he doesn't get hurt or anything. It's kind of like, even though they don't show it, you can tell that the Force is protecting him, so he can kind of get to where he needs to be and do what he needs to do. So I really like that moment. But then his buddy with the big machine gun, he dies soon after. Couldn't care less. There was the pilot. He was an Imperial pilot who defected. Couldn't care about him. Sorry. Don't know who you are. I can't remember your name. Jyn Erso and the dude, the rebel guy with her, Caspian. I mean, they had their big moments, and they finally died at the end because the Death Star shot at the planet, but not at the city. Only destroying the city, but it doesn't even shoot right at the city. It shoots far. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But anyways, they watch their death come, and so people start dying. But like, these characters are dying, but I couldn't care. You know, like, you take a movie like Saving Private Ryan. Maybe it's the actors' performances or whatever, but when those characters start dying towards the end of that movie, you felt bad. You know, like, oh, I don't want that guy to die. I don't want this. Oh shit! Like, that's horrible. I didn't get that from this movie at all. Some people did, and that's great if you did, but I just didn't. I don't know why. I thought the characters were boring. There was no emotional weight to it at all. I mean, aside from that, there was a lot of scenes that you were kind of expecting just from seeing the trailers that weren't in there. There's like a whole long list that you could go through about, wait, where was that scene? Like when Jyn was on the tower and she's walking out on this platform or bridge and this TIE fighter comes up. That didn't happen in the movie. Where the fuck was that? You know, what's with these reshoots? Who knows? And then there was the scene with Darth Vader. Let's talk about that. There's two things I wanted in this movie, and I got both of them, but it still left me disappointed. I wanted every of these characters to die, and I got that. I couldn't care less. And then I wanted Darth Vader to show up, because you knew, from the trailers, you knew he was going to be in it, and I wanted him to be badass Darth Vader, scary fucking Darth Vader, that just, like, wipes out everybody. And he did do that, but as a weird afterthought. I wanted Darth Vader to come down and be part of that major battle on the ground. There was this moment in the movie, this Imperial ship dropped down and deployed a bunch of, like, death troopers, those black stormtroopers. And I was like, oh, here comes Darth Vader. He's going to come and he's going to fuck everybody up. And no, he wasn't there. And I just thought that would have been cool to see him on the ground with all this crazy shit going around, and just he's untouchable and godlike with his force and how powerful he is. And I wanted him to be the one to kill a lot of these characters. I wanted him to force choke Jyn. Not that I'm like, oh, she needs to die, but just like this is your opportunity to show Darth Vader again. You know, while we still have James Earl Jones doing the voice, who he sounded kind of funny, weird. I mean, I know he's older and stuff, but while you have James Earl Jones, like, do some Darth Vader shit, you know, and some awesome Darth Vader shit. And he showed up again. Spoilers, everyone knows this. Like, at the end, they get the plans, they upload them on this rebel ship, and they have a disc or something, and they need to get the disc onto this ship. Or anyways, the ship gets boarded by the Empire. You got this group of rebel soldiers, and like the lights go out and the doors shut and they can't get the door open. And then like they look and they know someone's there or whatever, and you hear Darth Vader's breathing, and then you see his lightsaber ignite, and it's scary and it's cool. And he does this awesome shit where he kills all these rebel soldiers rather violently using his lightsaber, you know, deflecting blaster bolts, using the force, choking people, throwing people around, crashing into the ceilings. But it was like 2 minutes long, maybe, if that. You know, and he kills everybody, but, you know, they were able to get the plans through this crack in the door and like, run, run, run. And then, you know, that ship that was at the beginning of the very first Star Wars that Princess Leia is on, that escapes and flies away, and he watches. And that was cool, but it was just too brief. And here's what I think should have happened. Again, like I'm wanting to give advice for, you know, this billion-dollar Star Wars franchise. But, I mean, this is a Star Wars movie, and people are going to come see your fucking Star Wars movie. I don't care who they are. Like, it's going to make a lot of money. But they put Darth Vader in the trailers for it. And I kind of don't like that they did that for how little he was in that. If he was going to be in the trailers, Darth Vader should have been the main fucking villain of the movie. This director, whoever got the villain, like, he was boring as shit. I couldn't care about him at all, and he was just taking up screen time. They should have had Vader and Grand Moff Tarkin, and we'll talk about him in a second, as the major villains. You know, give Darth Vader some of this screen time. Make him the architect of half this shit that's going on. I mean, if you're going to put him in the trailers, you should put him in the fucking movie for, like, a huge moment. Like, you don't need to put Vader in the trailers for a Star Wars movie. Like, people are going to go see your movie. You know, it's a Star Wars movie. They're going to go see it, whether it has Darth Vader or not. If they were only going to have him in there for the brief moments that he was in there, they shouldn't have put him in the trailers at all and had it be a fucking crazy surprise. And that would have been like, oh my God, I just was not expecting Darth Vader to be in this. I was hoping, you know, but like, oh my God, here he is. And look at all the shit he's doing. That's what they should have done. If he's in the trailer, he needed a bigger part. If they were only going to keep him in a small part, they should have kept him out of the trailer to keep my expectations up high. So I got what I wanted. Everybody died. All the heroes died, and Darth Vader was in it, and he was being a badass. But it just didn't do it for me. Like, it failed for me. They did some weird CG stuff with Grand Moff Tarkin in it. And Princess Leia, which was weird and distracting, especially the Princess Leia part. I mean, it's impressive for sure what they're able to do, but soon this movie is going to be outdated. Like, special effects are going to get better and better, and at some point, you're going to watch this movie and be like, oh, it just looks weird and off and fake. You know, with like that Tron sequel with Jeff Bridges. Like, he looked pretty accurate in there as a young, whatever his character's name was in that. But you watch it now, and you're like, yeah, it looks weird. And it's kind of like silly to watch it now. I'm afraid that's how it's going to be for this Rogue One. What they should have done, again, they should have had Grand Moff Tarkin as more of a villain than this director Krennic, and just get some actor who looks and sounds enough like the original actor, whatever his name was, Peter Cushing? Whatever. and just have that guy play Grand Moff Tarkin instead of doing this weird CGI stuff. I mean, they have fucking a different actress who played Mon Mothma. They didn't need to do it for her, so why couldn't they do it for Grand Moff Tarkin? But I mean, Rogue One is made a shitload of money, still making it. I saw it twice. I'll go see it again. I'll buy it when it comes out because I'm that kind of person. I buy these movies, even though I have issues with them. Because it's a fucking Star Wars movie. And even though it has some shitty moments to it, like the prequels, there's some cool stuff to watch. And that end battle was awesome. So that's my Star Wars rant. Oh, I guess I should mention Suicide Squad really fast. Again, there's a lot of expectations for this movie. I thought it was a good idea. I thought DC was trying to imitate or mimic Marvel's success with the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, obscure comic book property, unknown characters, but making it a fun movie with a fun soundtrack. That's what they tried to do, but again, they failed. And where I think they ultimately failed is by not making the Joker the primary villain of the movie. Like, why was he in this movie? Just because, yes, they're universe building, and he'll be in future movies, I hope. I mean, Jared Leto's not too happy with how he was portrayed. A lot of people don't like his version of the Joker, but, you know, I think it was fine. It was a semi-different take, and could be interesting in other movies. But he was this weird subplot with Harley, and they made Harley and Joker's relationship like way too nice and loving. And that's not how it is at all. Like, you shouldn't want to be the Joker's girlfriend or in a relationship with him. He's a fucking psychotic, abusive asshole. And that's how they should have portrayed him in this movie. And I'm not saying I condone, you know, violence or abusive relationships with women, but like, you don't neuter a character like the Joker. You want him to be scary and freaky, and, you know, because when you finally defeat him, it makes that victory all much better. And in Harley's case, yes, I think she needed to be a major character because she's a highly popular character. And what needed to happen is that she is in this abusive relationship with the Joker, which she finally overcomes and chooses the Suicide Squad over the Joker. Like, kind of makes that story arc for herself. Like, ditches him and breaks the cycle of the abuse that she's had. I think that would be a good story arc for her. It would be empowering for her and would make her a much better role model. And that's my main beef with that movie. I mean, the Enchantress was weird. Everybody knows that. Joker should have been more in it. He should have been more of a threat. He should have been the primary villain. There's a great direct-to-video movie, Assault on Arkham. Batman Assault on Arkham. Batman was in the movie as a minor part, but it was the same thing, Suicide Squad. And they had to go into Arkham to do something with, I think, the Riddler. But Joker was in there, and he was a primary adversary, and he was like fighting Deadshot a lot. It was really cool, and I think they could have really done something good with that. Aside from that, the characters were weird sometimes, like shitty, weird. I don't know if the performances were bad. It was just badly written. The tone was all over the place, like random music in random places. I mean, it was a fun movie, and I liked the parts where it tied into the others, and seeing Batman and Ben Affleck in there was awesome. And I think they could do more with this group of characters. But this movie, like with many other people, it just failed for me. So that was my year in review. What did you think about some of these movies that I talked about? Was there any others that I should have talked about a little bit more? I mean, I know I saw more movies. I saw Moana. That was more recently, but that came out in 2016. That's a fun movie. Deadpool came out this year, almost a year ago. That movie, again, it's a good movie. Love Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. I'm not a biggest fan of that movie as a lot of people are. I think it has moments in it that are fun. has a lot of moments strung together that are fun, but I don't know if they make for a great movie. That's just me. I actually wasn't too happy with Colossus's portrayal. Some people are like, "That's how he's supposed to be in the comic books, you asshole." I'm like, I fucking guess. Like, he was made a joke almost. You know, he was throwing up and he was just being. It was just dumb. I didn't like Colossus in this, and that's why I'm not too excited to see Cable in the next movie. I'm afraid they're going to make Cable a joke, but Ryan Reynolds is still funny. I love his Deadpool like everybody else, and I'll definitely be watching more of it. Not a bad movie at all, but I just don't like it as a lot as other people do. All right, so we're done talking about 2016 in the movies. So let's talk about 2017 movies. I'm going to give you my top 10 list for my most anticipated 2017 movies. So it's been a month in January, and no, I have not seen a movie yet that has cracked my top 10 or I've wanted to. So, yeah, fuck you, January. Even though it's my birthday. So my number 10 movie is, oh boy. All right, I'm just gonna say it, Kong Skull Island. The one trailer I've seen of this looks pretty good. I like Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, Loki, and Captain Marvel. You know, this could be a shitty movie, but I mean, I kind of like the way it looked. I think King Kong looks cool. There's a scene that reminded me of what was that? Shadows of the Colossus. The way he was, just the furry effect that he had, and this big titan kind of walking through the water and stuff like that. But the movie looks exciting to me, and they're going to make a crossover with Godzilla. So that's my number 10. My number 9 is Alien Covenant. Now Prometheus, the movie that came before this, wasn't that great for me. Had some kind of, I was hopeful for it, but then there's just some stupid, dumb story elements to it. But this looks a little bit of a better movie. It looks a little bit more scary. Involves more of the aliens as opposed to whatever. But I hope it's a good bridge between both Prometheus and like the original Alien and Aliens movies. It kind of sucks that because this movie was being made, the production or everything stopped on that other Alien movie they were going to make by, I can't remember anybody's names. That one director who did District 9, he was supposed to do an Alien movie with Sigourney Weaver and Michael Biehn and blah, 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 blah. Who knows how that's going to happen. But this Alien Covenant looks pretty fun. My next one, probably a bit of a surprise, number 8, is Spider-Man Homecoming. Again, I'm definitely going to go see it. I'm excited for it, but I'm not as excited for this version of Spider-Man. And the previews, there hasn't been anything in the previews that's gotten me really pumped to see this movie. I mean, I'm sure, hopefully, I'm not sure, but fingers crossed that it'll be good. And this could be the best Spider-Man series or movie ever. I still like the original Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire movies. But number 8 is Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 7 is Power Rangers. I grew up watching the Power Rangers, the very first iteration, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I watched it for a few seasons until they started changing cast and the original actors, some of the original actors left, but there was some it was fucking stupid. I mean, I don't have to fucking, whatever. I fucking like the show. I mean, I was a kid. I'll still watch, like, sometimes I'll watch some of those episodes if I catch them, but this new reboot, this gritty reboot, it looks fun. I mean, it's different. I mean, has Bryan Cranston as Zordon. That's fucking weird and awesome. There's only been 2 trailers for it. The first one didn't show much. The second one showed a little bit more. You haven't seen much of the Zords. You get little glimpses of them, but it looks pretty exciting to me. So that was number 7, right? Yeah, Power Rangers. The next one, number 6, is Logan. That's coming up soon. Everyone's going nuts over the trailers. I'm hoping it's a good movie. Like, I love Hugh Jackman. I'm super sad to see him leave the role. I mean, he is getting old. Um, like the Civil War comic book, this Logan movie is based on Old Man Logan, the comic book. But there's no way they could make this storyline into what the comic book storyline is. It's impossible. Um, all the similarities is that Wolverine is old, I guess. So I wish they would have done this movie later. Like, I wish they would have done something else. I don't know what. And maybe when Hugh Jackman was actually a little bit older, maybe 10 years, and maybe he, like, doesn't need to get, like, fucking ripped like he does for these movies, and then he could do this Old Man Logan. So, I mean, I'm excited for this movie. The buzz around it is good. There's a scene I'm hoping is in it. It probably won't be, but one of my most memorable, I think what got, big long story about how me and my brothers got to be fans of X-Men. My brothers might tell you is that they saw this cover of X-Men where Wolverine was crucified on this big fucking X, drawn by Mark Silvestri. Really awesome image. Shadows, where you can tell it was Wolverine, but you don't see his face, just on this X. And he was crucified by this group of villains, these half-cyborg, or these cyborg villains called the Reavers, and the Reavers are the villains in this movie. That's why I'm hoping that maybe we'll see Wolverine crucified on a cool X. It could make a cool visual, it could make a cool poster. In the comic books, that was kind of around the introduction of Jubilee, where she became friends with Logan, and Wolverine helped him escape that, and they could substitute Jubilee for X-23, the little girl who's in this, who is in the comics. She's way younger than she is in the comics. But, she has the two claws. She's a female clone of Wolverine. I don't know if they'll do that in this movie. But, I mean, the trailers look good, but it's not getting me as excited, so that's why it's number 6. But Logan is number 6. Number 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Again, the first Guardians of the Galaxy is probably my second favorite Marvel movie. I don't know where it falls in, like, overall comic book movies. But it was a great movie, fun movie. This one I'm excited for, but the trailers haven't really done much for me. Like, they haven't shown me what the plot is, what's going on, and I'm not a fan of this fucking Baby Groot thing. Like, I want to see Groot as he was, like, I get that it can sell toys, and he had that little cute little dancing scene because he was in a plant. Now he's this little toddler Groot. And, I mean, it could be funny and stuff, but I don't know. It's kind of annoying me. I'm basing wanting to see this on the first movie. The trailers haven't done anything for me so far. But I trust the director. I love the cast. It'll be interesting to see how it plays into the rest of the Marvel movies, because I think their next appearance would be the Avengers Infinity War movie, where they show up in that movie, which will be awesome. But not much else to say about Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's my number 5. My number 4 is the Justice League. We've only seen one kind of, I guess it's a trailer. I liked Batman vs. Superman. I like seeing these characters together. A big team-up movie like this is exciting for me, whether or not, like, that's why I like seeing Batman and Superman together in Batman vs. Superman, even though there were some plot points that were horrible with it. Like, just seeing them together is kind of exciting. And this is why I want to see the Justice League. Seeing Wonder Woman in there again with the Flash and Aquaman, Cyborg, I guess Cyborg, never been a big fan of his. Isn't doing much for me in these trailers yet. But it'll be interesting to see what goes on with this. I'm sure Superman, even though he died, spoilers, in Batman vs. Superman, he's going to come back. I think it's already been spoiled. Henry Cavill's going to be in it. It'll be kind of cool to see where that goes. But to see Batman and Wonder Woman bring the Justice League together and see what they're doing. So I'm hoping for more trailers. I'm hoping this movie can be a little bit more well received than the last couple of DC movies. But that was Justice League number 4. Number 3 is Thor Ragnarok. Now, I love the character of Thor. He's probably my favorite Avenger, above Captain America, above Iron Man, above the Hulk. I mean, my dad used to read the comic books of Thor, and he kind of got me into it as a kid. So I've always had a fondness of Thor. I love Chris Hemsworth in the role. I've enjoyed the last couple of Thor movies, maybe because I'm biased towards the character, but I mean, I don't think they're as bad as people are saying. I think Iron Man 2 and 3 are definitely far worse movies, but I won't get into that. So that's why Thor Ragnarok is so high on my list. I mean, it almost was going to be number 2, but I haven't seen any trailers for it, so I don't know how it's going to be. Hopefully a trailer's going to be out soon. But the premise and the other characters in it is what is also exciting. I mean, Ragnarok means it's like the Asgardian Armageddon or something. It's also going to include the Hulk, which will be like a Planet Hulk thing, which is a storyline from the comic books where Hulk is on an alien planet and becomes kind of a gladiator thing. So I think Thor and Hulk will have a cool fight, but then it's supposed to be like a buddy road trip kind of movie where they're going to go be together. And just from seeing some others, hearing some stuff and seeing the end credit scene in Doctor Strange, looks like they're going to Earth to look for Odin because of Loki. And Doctor Strange will be helping them, so he'll be in this movie for a little bit. I don't know how much. It has some other cool characters, and this movie is supposed to be like a big deal, which will eventually lead into Avengers Infinity War. So I'm super stoked for this movie, and it could have been number 2, but there hasn't been any trailers. So that's why it's number 3. But number 2 is Wonder Woman. That was her theme music. I was not happy with Gal Gadot's casting as Wonder Woman. I thought she was in Fast and the Furious movies. I'm like, she's not like ripped enough, and some people still say she. But anyways, she won me over in Batman vs Superman. I thought she did a great job, and the trailers for this Wonder Woman movie look fucking awesome. I'm hoping it's a good movie. Like, people have said, like, Wonder Woman is a hard nut to crack as far as a character for a movie. I'm like, no, she's fucking not. I'm like, yes, she has some weird storyline origins in the comics where she was molded out of clay and then breathed life into her. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it with this one. But, you know, she's an Amazon. It's a more mythical approach to the superhero genre. I think the world is ready for it. It takes place during World War I. That's an interesting idea. I wouldn't have ever thought of that. But Wonder Woman is long overdue for a movie. Like, why did it take so long? I could tell you that's kind of a political thing. It's just like fucking people don't seem to think like female-led movies are gonna work, especially comic book movies. Like, yeah, because there was Catwoman and Elektra. I'm like, those were just badly written. It's not because the characters are bad. Like, you can have a good Catwoman movie. You can have a good Elektra movie. Like, look at Elektra in fucking Daredevil. She was great. You know, she could. It can happen. Just like, that's not the reason. People just didn't want her to have her own movie for some reason. It's about time they did. Joss Whedon almost made a Wonder Woman movie. That would have been interesting to see. I wonder what he would have done. But that didn't happen. He did the Avengers. So fuck you, DC. Sorry. I love these movies. But the trailers look great. I love seeing this. Like her lasso and her sword and her gauntlet things, you know, deflecting bullets. Ching, ding, ding. And I love that theme music that was in Batman and Superman. Okay, I'll stop. So that's my number 2. And my number 1, if you probably haven't guessed, it's fucking Star Wars Episode 8, which was recently announced as The Last Jedi, that it's titled. Yeah, there's no trailers for this, but it's still my number 1 because I really, really enjoyed, I almost said Phantom Menace, The Force Awakens. I thought it was much better than Rogue One, and I'm excited to see this storyline and this mythology continue, and it's a Star Wars movie. I hope it will continue the trend of Force Awakens and even Rogue One of just being successful. I hope it's well received. I hope it's a good movie. I'm excited to see Rey and Kylo Ren and why can't I think of their names? Poe and Finn, and Luke Skywalker's in it. Princess Leia will be in it. It sucks. I mean, fuck, Carrie Fisher died in 2016. That's why that year fucking sucked too. Everybody was dying. I mean, it'll be weird to see what they had planned for her in these next two movies. She was supposed to be in the episode 9 too, but that's not going to happen now, obviously. But Star Wars Last Jedi, it's my number one most anticipated movie, and I mean, we have to wait for December for that movie. So hopefully, within the next few months, we'll get at least some kind of teaser for it. Just the theories of what could happen, like who is the last Jedi? Is it Luke? Is it Rey? Is it Kylo Ren? Who is Rey's parents? Is she, a daughter of Han Solo and Princess Leia, which I don't think? Is she Luke's daughter? Is she Obi-Wan Kenobi's daughter? Is she going to stay a good guy? Is she going to be turned to the dark side? Is Kylo Ren going to be redeemed? Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, it's just all sorts of excitement, and I can't wait to find out how this continues. So that's my top 10 list. There are some notable movies that I'm also excited to see. John Wick 2, I want to see. Let's see. What else? Pirates of the Caribbean. Fuck, I haven't enjoyed those movies since the first one, so unless that movie gets good reviews, I'm not going to go see it. I'll wait until it comes out. Baywatch actually kind of looks fun. I mean, you can't go wrong with The Rock. Beauty and the Beast. It's weird seeing all these Disney movies get made into live action. That one makes sense, and that one kind of looks exciting. War for the Planet of the Apes. I like the last two, Dawn and Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So I'll watch this one. Transformers The Last Night. It's fuck you, Transformers. It's those movies got progressively worse. I really, really enjoyed the first Transformers movie. I was really excited for the second one, and then I'm like, what the fuck? This is weird. There's some weird shit going on in this movie. The third movie kind of had some good moments, but then just was too long. And then I went to see the fourth one. I saw it once, and that one just dragged, and I got suckered in because there was fucking Dinobots. I'm not going to go see this one unless the reviews are all over the place. Oh my gosh, this is the best Transformers movie since the first one, or it's so good, blah, 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 blah. But I kind of doubt it, so I'm going to skip that one. Kingsman, The Golden Circle, sequel to The Kingsman. Really enjoyed the first one. I'm kind of disappointed that, what was the one guy? The main, again, sorry, can't think of anybody's name. But the one main British actor who died, not in real life, but the character died. He was the guy in The King's Speech. Anyways, I really liked him in that movie. He was an ass kicker. And it sucks that he died in that first movie, so I'm not as excited for this sequel since he's not going to be in it. Let's see, The Dark Tower, Stephen King novels being made into a movie. I never read those books, so I'm not really excited for this movie, but I will go see it. I think Matthew McConaughey are in it and Idris Elba, so that sounds fun. Ooh, 50 Shades Darker. I can't wait to not go see that movie. Cars 3, couldn't care about Cars 1, never saw Cars 2. The Mummy. I mean, it's Tom Cruise. Could be fun. Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. I'm only interested in that movie because it's directed by Luc Besson, who did Fifth Element. So if he has any kind of fun and adventure like he did in that movie, it'll be good. Ghost in the Shell. Whitewashing the character with Scarlett Johansson. Yeah, it's an issue. But Ghost in the Shell, I watched the anime, the original Japanese movie. I couldn't tell you what it was really about. It was so fucking confusing. I mean, who knows? I'll probably go see that one. Despicable Me 3, no thank you. Trainspotting, I never saw the first one. Blade Runner 2049. I don't know about that one either, just because I never actually saw Blade Runner. You think I should fucking see that movie? So I'll probably go see this sequel, and I'll probably watch Blade Runner, the first one before it. Since I never watched the first one, I'm not really excited for that. The Fate of the Furious, another Fast and the Furious. I will go see this movie. I like the Fast and Furious movies, and this one seems to like what can you do to get me excited? Oh, the main character, Vin Diesel's character, is kind of a bad guy. Obviously, it's going to be like, oh, he's forced to do it. He's not actually a bad guy, but, it looks fun. Has The Rock in it. You can't go wrong with The Rock. Speaking of which, Jumanji with The Rock. Don't know anything about this movie. Excuse me. The characters in it look silly and like they're game pieces or something. But I'll probably go see that. What else is there? King Arthur, maybe. World War Z 2? Is that going to be a thing? It says it right here. I'll be surprised. The Batman Lego movie, I'll go see that. So that looks like about all the movies so far. That's my top 10 list with talking about briefly some of the others that I may or may not go see. So what do you think of my list? Would you put some higher, lower, add some, delete some? What do you think? Well, I think that's going to do it for me. I mean, this last year I finished the second issue of my comic book, and I'm working hard on the next one. I got a couple of conventions planned to attend. One in March here in Salt Lake City, the Fan X, March 17th and 18th. So I'm working on a lot of different pictures to sell as prints there. So come see me if you're in the Salt Lake area. In June, I will be going to the amazing Las Vegas Comic-Con. I don't remember the exact days, but it's in June. So keep that in mind. If you're in the Las Vegas area, come say hi to me. Check out some of my art. I'm trying to go to more conventions, but, it's hard when it's not my full-time job and the expenses. And, I need to develop a little bit more of a fan base before I start like going crazy about a lot of conventions and spending a lot of money on travel and hotels and shit like that. I went to one in Palm Springs and lost money. I didn't make enough to cover the trip, with airfare and everything else included. So I'm just working on my art. Hopefully I'll make it into a gig where I can work from home and make that my full-time job. It's a long shot, but you got to have a fucking dream. You got to try for something. I don't want to work at my same job for years and years and years. I want to do something that I'm passionate about, like something that I love. Eventually, like if that happens, like any job, like it can become just work and maybe I'll hate it and deadlines or whatever. Who knows? But if I don't ever do it, I'm going to be disappointed. So I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to make a Patreon page, and so I'll tell people about that if you want to see more of my work and get exclusive content and stuff. I'm going to work on more YouTube videos, more videos that show me drawing stuff. I have this idea that I'm kind of tinkering around with that I want to call Nortonman Art 101, which will basically be me teaching how I draw my pictures, different art styles and stuff like that, kind of like a class. No, I'm not like the greatest artist where like, who the fuck are you to tell me how to draw? But it could be fun, and why not? Why not? Like, no one's probably going to watch it, but that won't mean that I won't have fun doing it. So fuck you if you're saying go fuck yourself for thinking of that. So in the meantime, you can catch me on Facebook, Nortonman Art and Comics. You can check me out on Instagram at Nortonman Art, and Twitter, which I'm not on for too much, but I'm on there every now and then. Nortonman37 on Twitter. You can also look up Nortonman on YouTube to see my channel. I got a few videos on there. I put my Kickstarter videos up there. I have one time-lapse drawing video that I put up there. Plus, I put these podcast videos up there in segments. So that's where you can see me. So I'm going to try and do more podcasts. Hopefully, it won't just be me talking out my ass. Hopefully, if it is, this has been at least semi-entertaining to you. If not, I don't know. I blame you for listening to this for so long. But I'm going to try and have other guests come and talk with me. maybe Roundy will be able to find some time from his baby-making schedule to sit down with me again, and we can talk. We'll probably get into fucking politics because, I don't know. He likes the politics. But that's it. So again, hit me up on all those things and recommend Brainweb, to all your friends and family and coworkers. It's the greatest show on TV, but it's not on TV. It's the greatest show on TV. If it were on TV, it would be the greatest show. I'd find a way to make it happen. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time, or listen to you next time, or you'll hear me next time. I don't know. Shit. So say we all. Oh, shit, I forgot to... Damn it. I think I had too much dead space in this. But, is there dead space? Anyways, I forgot to mention the secret word / phrase in the podcast. So, if you've, in every podcast, whether it's me or whether it's Roundy, there's been a secret phrase that we have said, and if somebody can guess the secret phrase, then they will win some loot, whether it's comic books or art from me or him. I think he was doing some Bitcoins, if that's still a thing he's doing. He's in it gold and silver now, whatever that is. So listen to the podcast, listen to previous podcasts, pay attention. There's a phrase that we use. If you think of it or figure it out, send us a message, and we will give you some free shit, and then we'll make a new phrase. So, yeah, that's about it. That's all. Thanks for listening. Again, okay, bye-bye.